Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm one of the speech and language therapists here at SpeechLink. Thank you very much to Kamini for suggesting we talk about phonological awareness activities for Key Stage 1 pupils today. Before we dive into the top tips, I think we should think a little bit about what phonological awareness is. So phonological awareness is the ability to recognise, discriminate and manipulate sounds in our heads and to predict how changes to sounds will change how words sound as a whole. It's a really complex skill which develops through lots and lots of stages throughout childhood, and some skills might not be expected to be established even for typically developing children until they're 8 or 9, so we need to have realistic expectations about what children are going to be able to do. It's also important to recognise the difference between phonics and phonological awareness. So phonics is thinking about matching sounds to letter representations, but phonological awareness is much broader than that. So it also includes skills like thinking about syllables and being able to recognise and produce rhyme, as well as recognising the sounds that make up words. So you might be working on phonological awareness skills with a child who has speech sound difficulties, but these skills also play a really big role in developing reading and writing. So it's an important skill for us to think about for all of the children that we work with. So here are my top tips for working on phonological awareness skills. Tip number 1 is to start at the child's level. So you need to be able to think about what stage the child is currently at in terms of their phonological awareness development and meet them where they are, no matter what their age is. So you need to stretch their skills a little bit at a time and think about stepping up or stepping down the level of difficulty of the activity as appropriate, depending on how they're getting on with it. So for example, you could ask yourself, can the child segment or clap syllables? If not, maybe can they clap or count out the words in a sentence instead, so that might be a bit easier for them. Tip number 2, working on phonological awareness skills is going to be a listening activity. So before you start, make sure that you establish what good listening means and set up the environment so that the child can be successful with the activities you're going to do. So Louise's video from last week had lots and lots of good ideas for how to set up an environment to support listening, so I really recommend that you go back and watch that one for some more advice. Tip number 3, so because this is a listening skill, there's going to be loads of different activities you can use to practice working on phonological awareness. The world really is your oyster with this one, whatever level you're starting at. It's usually best to pick activities which are going to be of interest to the child, so have a really good think about what that child likes doing when you're designing your activities. You just need an activity where the child is going to be able to give you a response to indicate what they've heard, so you've got loads of options. For many children I've worked with, particularly in Key Stage 1, they've really enjoyed doing physical activities to work on this kind of area. So they work brilliantly doing things like running to different places in the room, or having 2 hula hoops on the floor to make decisions between, perhaps doing some jumping activities or throwing beanbags at targets, jumping on lily pads, or even stomping around the room like a dinosaur. They're really fun. For other children who might have more visual strengths, you could think about how to incorporate those. So for example, if you were working on identifying syllables, you could build a tower or use stamps on some paper to build a chain. And tip number 4, make sure that you're teaching and not testing. So when you're thinking about your activities, build in lots of opportunities for you to model the skills and for the child to be able to practice and to receive some accurate feedback about how they're doing. So you want to make sure that you're not just testing them over and over again, but that you're showing them what you want them to do, giving them opportunities to practice and telling them what's going well and what things they're struggling with a little bit, so you can help them to improve and monitor for themselves as well. So those are my top tips for working on phonological awareness skills. If you have any other tips or activities that you'd like to share, please pop them in the comments below, and we'll see you another time. Thanks.